He was healthy, strong. At 72, he still walked every morning, read without glasses, and had never stayed overnight in a hospital. But when his doctor said the word surgery, everything changed. And here's the shocking truth. Most elderly people don't survive what he went through, not because of the surgery itself, but because they don't know what he knew. What he did before the operation saved his life, and it might save yours too. He had always been the kind of man who didn't look his age. At 72, he still cut his own grass, carried groceries like a young man, and even played cards standing up, just to keep his knees flexible. People around him used to say, "You've got more energy than a 50-year-old." And honestly, he believed them. He thought longevity was something he'd earned by eating right, walking every morning, and staying away from hospitals. But all it took was one routine checkup and one look on the doctor's face. That's when it started. The moment life tilted without warning. A shadow of fear crept in. The word mass was mentioned. And just like that, old age felt real for the first time. At first, he laughed it off. "It's probably just a fatty lump," he said. But the tests kept coming, and so did the silence in the doctor's voice. When you've made it this far, past retirement, through raising a family, surviving grief, and even watching friends pass, you start to think you're immune to surprises. But no one's ever truly prepared for the word surgery in old age. It's not just about what they're cutting. It's about what it cuts into. Your sense of control, your independence, your confidence. That night, he sat alone on the edge of his bed and asked himself something most elderly never admit out loud. What if I don't wake up? The fear wasn't about dying exactly. It was about fading, losing mobility, becoming a burden. He remembered stories from neighbors who never came back the same after a surgery. One couldn't walk straight again. Another got an infection. And the worst, the one who seemed fine at first, but never left the hospital bed. These stories, usually shared in whispers over coffee or church meetings, suddenly became real. The more he thought about it, the more he realized senior health isn't just about surviving. It's about recovering well. That's a very different challenge after 70. Still, he kept showing up to every appointment, asking questions, pretending to be braver than he felt. His wife noticed the change. "You're quiet lately," she said. He just nodded. Because how do you explain the weight of uncertainty when your body, which once climbed ladders and danced at weddings, now feels like a ticking clock? Old age plays tricks on the mind, especially when you're facing something that demands surrender, like surgery. You start to doubt the very things that used to make you feel invincible: your habits, your health, your history. What made it worse was how fast everything moved after the diagnosis. In just a few weeks, he went from casual checkups to blood tests, from friendly doctors to serious specialists. There were papers to sign, risks to accept, and questions he didn't know how to ask. He kept hearing the word routine, but nothing about this felt routine. Not at 72. Not when your body takes longer to heal, when anesthesia isn't just a nap, and when every choice feels heavier. For many elderly patients, the hardest part of surgery isn't the procedure, it's the waiting, the not knowing, the imagining. And yet, somewhere deep down, he started preparing. Quietly, thoughtfully, like someone who's been through storms before. He didn't panic, but he didn't ignore the fear either. Because he knew something most people don't talk about. The body needs help to recover, but the mind? The mind needs to be ready to fight. And while the surgery was coming whether he liked it or not, how he walked into that hospital could change everything. But what he didn't know, and what most elderly never hear, is that there's a danger in surgery that even doctors fear. And that brings us to something that shook him even more than the diagnosis. There's something most people don't realize. Surgery after 70 is a completely different story. It's not just the cut. It's everything your body has to do after it. The inflammation, the sleep disruptions, the slower healing. And then there's the anesthesia. At 30, you go under and bounce back. But in old age, it can leave confusion, memory loss, or even trigger long-term cognitive issues. Some elderly patients never quite come back mentally. That's why doctors are careful, not scared of the surgery itself, but of what happens after to an older body that's not what it used to be. One surgeon once said, "With every elderly patient, I don't just operate on the body, I gamble with the mind." It's dramatic, yes, but frighteningly accurate. Studies show that people over 70 have a 30% higher risk of post-op complications, from infections to pneumonia, even when the surgery goes well. And do you know the real reason? It's because the immune system in old age becomes sluggish, slower to respond, and more likely to overreact. A small fever can become a big threat. A cough? It might turn into something much worse in days. That's the danger nobody mentions in the waiting room. And let's not forget mobility. One of the most terrifying realities for the elderly is the risk of never walking the same again. Muscles weaken fast after a few days in bed. Joints stiffen. And for someone who's spent decades independent, opening jars, reaching shelves, walking to the market, losing that freedom can feel worse than the surgery itself. That's why senior healthcare now pushes for patients to walk hours after a procedure. Not because it's easy, but because staying still in old age is the real enemy. Recovery begins with movement, and that first step can feel like lifting a mountain. Then there's the emotional side, often ignored. The fear, the isolation, the what-ifs running through the mind while you lie under hospital lights. Many elderly patients don't say how scared they are. They smile. They nod. They act brave. But inside, it's chaos. Memories of friends who never made it. Worries about who'll feed the dog, water the plants, help with the bills. All those quiet responsibilities that don't go away just because you're in a hospital bed. That's the part doctors can't measure, but it matters. Because the spirit heals the body too. And the truth is, even the best hospitals have limitations. Busy staff, loud rooms, cold food, long nights with no one to talk to. It's not that they don't care, they just can't do it all. That's why many elderly patients decline fast without strong support. So if you're heading into surgery or helping someone who is, prepare beyond the paperwork. Prepare the heart, the home, and the habits. Because what happens after the surgery is what determines if you'll go back to walking your dog or needing help to tie your shoes. And here's the thing. As much as doctors warn and statistics shout, some lessons only hit when they get personal. He learned this the hard way, when he nearly made a mistake that could have ended everything. It wasn't the surgeon. It wasn't the hospital. It was him. One choice, one blind spot, almost cost him his life. It all started with one decision. He almost skipped a simple pre-op test. "I've done this before," he said. "I feel fine." It was a stress test, the kind that checks your heart under mild exertion. And since he never had chest pains, he didn't think it was necessary. But here's the truth most elderly don't know. Even if you feel fine, your heart might be hiding problems. Especially after 70, when arteries stiffen and symptoms become silent. His doctor insisted, thank goodness. And what they found changed everything. The results showed he had mild but dangerous arrhythmia under stress, something that would have gone unnoticed during the surgery. Had he not done the test, anesthesia could have triggered a cardiac event. That's how close he came to not waking up. Imagine that, someone in perfect shape, active and strong, nearly dying because of something he couldn't even feel. It shook him to the core. That day, he understood why so many elderly people look fine and still don't make it through surgery. It's not bad luck, it's what we don't see coming. And this kind of mistake is common. Many seniors refuse tests because they don't want bad news, or they want to avoid more appointments, more waiting rooms, more bills. If I don't know, it won't hurt me, they think. But the opposite is true. What you don't know after 70 can kill you. In fact, skipping pre-op tests is one of the leading causes of surgical deaths among the elderly. A hidden infection, a heart murmur, low oxygen, any of these can turn a simple procedure into a fatal event. That's the risk of pride, fear, or just plain impatience. He was lucky, but he knew others who weren't. like his friend Marcos, who went in for a hernia repair and came out with a stroke. No one had checked his blood pressure before surgery, not thoroughly. Or Mrs. Teresa, who caught a hospital infection because she didn't disclose an allergy to antibiotics. These aren't horror stories. They're real lessons. Painful reminders that in old age, every detail matters. And sometimes, the smallest decision is the one that makes the biggest difference between recovery and regret. After this close call, he became obsessed with preparation. He started researching everything: types of anesthesia, breathing exercises to help lungs recover, foods that support healing. He even asked his doctor to explain how the operating room works. "I want to know what happens to me when I'm asleep," he said. That kind of curiosity, it's not weakness, it's wisdom. Elderly patients who ask more questions and demand clear answers recover faster, avoid complications, and suffer less stress. Information in old age is not just power, it's protection. But it wasn't just what he almost did wrong. It's what he finally did right that made all the difference. One choice, one insight, one quiet piece of knowledge that changed everything about how he approached the surgery. And believe it or not, it's something anyone over 60 could do starting today. It wasn't a miracle. It wasn't a special doctor or some secret pill. What saved him was something so simple and yet so overlooked that most elderly patients never even hear about it. It started with a single sentence from a nurse during his pre-op class. "Your body doesn't heal from surgery. It recovers from what it already had before going in." That hit him hard, because he realized the real preparation doesn't happen on the operating table. It happens at home, days or even weeks before. What you eat, how you sleep, what you breathe, and what you believe, they all show up in that hospital room with you. He began by focusing on his lung strength. Sounds boring, right? But breathing deeply through his nose with long exhales became part of his morning routine. He used a spirometer, a simple breathing tool they give to patients, before the surgery, not after. This trained his lungs to expand better and reduce the risk of pneumonia, one of the top killers after surgery in old age. It was like teaching his body to breathe on its own terms, not under panic. And the result? His oxygen levels stayed strong, his recovery faster. A small habit, 5 minutes a day, but it gave him a major advantage. Then came nutrition. Not just eat healthy, he got specific. He added protein shakes with collagen and zinc to support tissue repair. He cut down on sugars, which increase inflammation, and added turmeric and ginger teas to help calm his immune system. These weren't gimmicks, they were fuel. "You wouldn't show up to a marathon without training," he said. "Why would you face surgery without building your body for it?" Elderly bodies need more of certain nutrients, not less. And most people go into surgery malnourished without knowing it, which slows healing dramatically. But here's the real key. He prepared his mind. He started journaling his fears. Every night, he wrote one thing he was worried about, and then one thing he was grateful for. This simple practice helped reduce cortisol, the stress hormone that can weaken your immune system. He also meditated, not for hours, just 7 minutes a day using a guided app. "I pictured my body strong and healing," he said. It might sound strange, but science backs it up. Visualizing recovery improves actual outcomes. The mind-body link in senior health is real and underused. He also made one bold move. He called a pre-op meeting with his surgeon. Not rushed, not casual. He had a list of questions. "What's your infection rate? What's your plan for pain control? How soon will I walk again?" Most elderly patients don't ask these things, but he did. And the surgeon? Impressed. "Patients like you have the best recoveries," he said. "When you take responsibility for your own health, even the doctors treat you differently. You're not just a patient. You're a partner." And that changes the dynamic completely. In the end, the surgery still came. The gown, the lights, the cold hands of nurses. But something was different. He felt ready. His body wasn't perfect, but it was prepared. His spirit wasn't fearless, but it was focused. That knowledge, Those weeks of building strength, breathing, asking, visualizing, it all created a shield. And that shield stayed with him after the operation, especially during the hardest part, which no one talks about enough. The days, the doubts, the discomfort that come after the procedure is done. The surgery went well. No surprises. The doctors called it a success. But what no one told him was that the hardest part starts when everyone else goes home. The first night was the worst. The pain was manageable, but the fear wasn't. He felt trapped in his own body, unable to move fast, afraid to breathe too deep, and completely at the mercy of strangers. This is the side of old age recovery people don't post online. No smiling selfies, just silence, tubes, beeping machines, and the creeping thought, will I ever be myself again? Even sitting up took effort. His body ached in places he didn't know could ache. And the worst part? He hated asking for help. For a man who once carried his grandchildren on his shoulders, now needing help just to pee felt like a cruel joke. Senior health isn't only physical, it's emotional dignity. That's the part nobody prepares you for. The moment when pride and pain wrestle inside you. He almost gave in to despair. Almost. But then he remembered everything he prepared before, and that gave him strength to push through. Day by day, he fought back. Small wins. Lifting his legs off the bed. Standing with support. Eating solid food without nausea. Each tiny moment felt like a victory. And here's the thing. He documented all of it. He made a recovery journal. Wrote down pain levels, emotions, progress, setbacks. It helped him notice patterns, like which meals gave him more energy or which breathing exercises helped him sleep. That kind of awareness turns pain into progress. And it gave him a roadmap, not just for himself, but to help others too. He also leaned on a trick he learned from an old friend. Talk to your body like it's your teammate. Sounds odd, right? But he'd say out loud, legs, we're walking today. Lungs, stay calm. It made him laugh, sure, but it also helped. Studies show that self-talk improves healing in elderly patients by reducing anxiety and building confidence. Sometimes, healing isn't about pushing harder. It's about treating yourself with kindness. That voice in your head can be a coach or a critic. He chose to make it a friend. And gradually, he noticed something no one prepared him for. He was changing. Not just healing, evolving. He had more patience. He valued silence. He paid attention to how he moved, what he ate, how he rested. Old age gave him something that youth never could, awareness. The kind that comes from walking through pain with your eyes open. The surgery didn't just fix my body, he said. It taught me how to live again. And that's the part of recovery no doctor can prescribe. The growth, the grit, the grace. But just as he began walking without help and smiling more often, he realized something deeper. There are millions of seniors out there, just like him, preparing for surgeries without this knowledge. Some will recover well, others won't. And what separates them isn't luck. It's knowing what to ask, what to prepare, and how to face it all with courage. That's why he started telling his story, not for sympathy, but to share a final warning for anyone nearing 70. If you're getting close to 70 or already past it, here's the truth nobody says out loud. You don't have the same recovery time as you did at 40, and pretending otherwise can be deadly. That's not to scare you. That's to wake you up. Because the decisions you make before surgery will decide who you are after it. You can't control every outcome, but you can control how prepared you are. And the biggest mistake elderly people make? Thinking it's just a routine procedure. Routine for the surgeon, maybe, but for your body? It's war. So what can you do right now, before a surgery ever appears on the calendar? First, get strong before you need to be. Walk daily, not for the steps, but to train your muscles to recover. Lift light weights. Practice standing up without holding on. Build your balance. These little things, they're not fitness routines. They're survival training. Elderly bodies that stay active before surgery bounce back faster and avoid wheelchairs. Think of it like packing armor for the storm ahead. Second, Have the hard conversations before it's too late. Talk to your doctor about all your medications. Ask if any raise your surgical risks. Review your family history. Set up legal paperwork in case something goes wrong. Not because you expect it to, but because peace of mind helps your body relax. Emotional stress creates tension, and tension makes recovery slower. And remember, you're not being morbid. You're being wise. These are the things that give you control when everything else feels uncertain. Third, train your caregivers. Yes, train them. Don't assume your family knows how to help. Teach them how to lift you properly, how to monitor your medication schedule, how to check for infections. Print out a chart. Write a list. This is your team. And a strong team is what gets you through the first 72 hours post-op. Many elderly patients crash after surgery not because of the operation itself, but because they return home to unprepared, overwhelmed loved ones. Longevity is a group effort. Fourth, protect your mindset like your life depends on it, because it does. Surround yourself with hope, with stories of recovery, with people who uplift you. Avoid those who fill your mind with fear. Watch videos like this one. Take notes. Prepare mentally, spiritually, emotionally. One of the strongest predictors of surgical success in old age isn't physical health, it's belief. The belief that you can get through this, that you're not too old to fight back, that your life still matters deeply. And finally, here's the warning. You might not get a second chance to prepare. Many people only realize what they should have done after they're already in pain, dependent, or worse. Don't wait for a diagnosis. Don't wait for the panic. Start now. Be the elder who walks into surgery not just hoping to survive, but equipped to thrive. Because if you've made it this far in life, you didn't come this far to surrender now. And if you're still with me, then maybe this story was exactly what you needed to hear. So let me ask you, are you really ready? If a doctor told you tomorrow that you needed surgery, would you know what to do? Would you have your team, your plan, your mind in the right place? Or would you feel lost, like most elderly patients who walk in blind, hoping for the best? This story wasn't just about one man. It was about a roadmap. And now you have it. You've seen the risks. You've seen the habits that help. And now the question is, what are you going to do with all this knowledge? Are you going to wait and hope things go well? Or are you going to prepare today like your life depends on it? Because it might. Old age doesn't forgive neglect, but it rewards those who stay sharp, stay ready, and stay strong. Maybe it's time to have that talk with your doctor. Maybe it's time to build your support network, strengthen your body, and ask the hard questions. Maybe it's time to stop thinking you're too old to change and realize you're wise enough to start. Longevity isn't luck. It's a series of decisions. And the best time to make them is now. What's the one thing you're going to do today to prepare yourself or a loved one? Leave it in the comments. I want to know. Share this video with someone who needs it. Let's make sure no one faces surgery alone or unprepared ever again. And before you go, if this video opened your eyes, if it gave you even one insight that could help your health or your family, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got more to talk about because life after 70 isn't the end. It's the beginning of your strongest chapter.